Willis. We have the sermon notes. I have emailed them all out because there is a pretty picture in the notes today. So if you're visiting, we're going through the book of Daniel, which is very, very faith-building. And you'll see that as we come along, because it really deals with a lot of different prophecies. And the Bible is the only religious book in the world with prophecies in it. And obviously it's impossible to prophesy unless God is actually helping you. Amen. And otherwise people will go down the betting shop and be millionaires, right? Okay. So Daniel, we're going to chapter 2. And the title of the lesson is Daniel, a man of great faith. Okay. So we're going to start in Daniel chapter 2 verse 1. So Daniel was an Old Testament prophet who was taken into exile. He actually spent the whole of his life in exile. Once he was taken there was no sort of victory story at the end coming back home. Maybe like some of you that came to Sydney and are never going to go back. Amen. That's what I'm going to say. You got a good husband. Amen. Right. Daniel chapter 2 verse 1, it says, in the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians and enchanters, sorcerers and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, I have had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means. Then the astrologers answered the king, may the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it. The king replied to the astrologers, this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you can tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me. Once more they replied, let the king tell his servants the dream and we will interpret it. Then the king answered, I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then, tell me the dream and I will know that you can interpret it for me. The astrologers answered the king, there is no one on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any of his magicians or enchanters or astrologers. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among the humans. This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men in Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and the men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. So here we see an incredible situation. You've got King Nebuchadnezzar. This is only in the second year of Daniel's, second year of the king's reign. So that makes us understand that Daniel, this is a new situation for him. And if you didn't know, in the Persian times, the kingdom was actually ruled by the wise men. The king was surrounded by all these people, and they were sort of like the administrators that ran the country. It's actually a bit like the Chinese Empire, where the administrators would actually run the country, and then the emperor would just sort of be behind the walled cities and have some sort of pleasurable life. But this man, you can tell, is full of insecurities. He's disturbed by his dreams. So how we react to something really is an overflow of where we're at in life, aren't we? So if you're full of insecurities, you look at everybody to blame. If you're full of faith, you go, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. He also doesn't trust those people around him. That's pretty obvious, because he's questioned them, and he doesn't value them. If he could kill them so quickly, he doesn't really value the people around him. He's quite self-centered as a king. He doesn't trust those around them. So both the king and all the psychics, they've realized what they have as professed power is actually not true. The king knows that their wisdom is false. And so he lays them a challenge. And he's like, guys, it's like the astrology's in the paper. You know it's not true. And he's like, guys, I know that you don't really have power. And I'm going to test you to it. If you really had power, then you'd know the dream and the interpretation. Yeah. Notice how they don't even come to him and go, you know what? I'm going to try and find out what the dream is. I'm going to go and use my magic powers. I'm going to go and use astrology, because even they know it's a hoax. So it's not just the king that knows it, but they actually know it. His youth and insecurity lead him to be unreasonable and harsh to those around him. Rather than just telling them, you know what, I know it's not true. I'm going to get some real wise men around me. He's like, I'm just going to wipe you out. This is how the ungodly lead. And what will it really do? It will highlight actually the godliness of Daniel as we go through the book. Jesus talks about this in Matthew 20:25. Jesus called them together and said, and this is a difference between spiritual leaders and non-spiritual leaders. You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. What we do, so many people have a real issue with God. God spends his existence serving us. That's mind-blowing. You think about it and go, I don't believe that. Well, think about Jesus' life. Jesus came to serve. That's mind-blowing. That's like the Queen of England walking in and go, who can I get a cup of tea for? As opposed to us going, the Queen's here, oh no, let's get her a cup of tea. The world thinks very, very differently to God and spirituality. Somebody's often asked me, does God still speak to us in dreams today? Well, the answer is no. What? What about what all the charismatic says? Well, let's go through Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1. Hebrews 1, verse 1, it says, in the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets, and at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he has spoken to us in his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, and through whom also he made the universe. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. After he provided purification of sins, he sat down at the right hand of majesty in heaven. So, how does God speak to us today? He speaks to us today in the words of Jesus. And where do we find them? We find them in the Bible. Why? Because people can make up dreams and lie. That's the bottom line. You go, how do I know what the truth is? It's in the Bible. People do not know how to interpret dreams. It's a specialist gift only given to Daniel and only given to Joseph. And they were to do with world events to protect his people. So this gift of, I had a dream last night and I think it's this, this, and this. That's rubbish. That's not a biblical concept of dreaming and interpretation. Okay, well, I think it means I should, buy a Ferrari today. That is not the reason God gives you dreams. He gave it to two people, Daniel and Joseph, for the benefit of the nation of Israel. Come on. People are affected by many things in life. Have you ever watched a movie and then dreamed that your dream was actually like you were in the movie? And it affected you? Yeah? Okay, right. So, that's what can happen. Why? Well, Matthew 6:22 says, what goes into the eye goes round the soul. So, I remember not the show The Vikings, but watching Viking movies, or there used to be a little video game called Vikings. I'd play it. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I was hacking people in my sleep. I was like, maybe I shouldn't be playing that video game anymore. Okay. But that's what happens. The other things, dreams are often because of anxiety. So you ever go, I can't sleep? Well, Ecclesiastes 5:3, a dream comes where there are many cares. That's why when we wake up, we should pray to God and thank God for all the ways that he's rescued us rather than giving in to anxiety. Wow. So does God give us dreams today to then guide our life? The answer to that is no. That is false. All right, point 1. And you'll notice that the titles are the same every week, but just on a different angle. So here, the challenge of great faith. So if you've got great faith, God will give you a challenge. We go, well, I don't want great faith then. Don't be so ridiculous. You want to live an adventurous life. You want to live a fantastic life. You want to live a life of adventure and faith. Come on. Daniel chapter 2, verse 14. It says, when Arioch, the commander of the king's